Yes. I do. I've got to say, I love the story out of Iraq. As violence falls in Iraq, cemetery workers feel the pinch. Boy, talk about the news media finding a negative in everything they see. Death takes a holiday. Fewer deaths. Well, that's bad for cemetery workers. I might refer to them as employees, not being a communist myself and everything. But that is great. Classic example, well, of news media being negative. Deaths are down. They found a negative angle on that because, as we like to say, every silver lining has a cloud. And that's your Democrat Party in 2025, and that means that's your news media in 2025. As violence falls in Iraq, cemetery workers feel the pinch. Oh, no, I'm not making as much money as I used to, washing bodies and wrapping them in shrouds for burial. Boy, if only more people were dying. And that's the position of the McClatchy News Service here. Quite remarkable. These people, can I just say, these people. Wonderful. And we also hit on Chief Justice John Roberts, who was on vacation with his wife last year in Portugal. My best girl and I, were we in Portugal last year? No, that was 2 years ago. We were in Portugal, my best girl and I. But Americans sitting next to John Boehner and his wife at a table, presumably a restaurant in Portugal, where the food is delicious and the people are nice. And guy said, I know you. You're John Boehner. You're John Boehner. And at that point, Chief Justice John Roberts knew that he needed to cut back on his drinking. That was the first glaring clue. Remarkable stuff. So, well, listen, we've got, I got Bernie Sanders. He was on the TV last night. He's a communist, but in America, he's got to become a millionaire, multi-millionaire communist that owns many personal private residences, and you don't let any poor people in or any illegal aliens or anything like that. So we've got that. But there was also a melee yesterday at the Columbia University in New York City. And the Democrats and the media, but I repeat myself, they love violence. They love political violence. They love mob political violence. They love street violence. They love indoor violence and outdoor violence. They love trashing places, usually in the name of something like, well, they're supporting the genocide of the Jewish people. That's what the Democrat Party is supporting. That's what the students at the Columbia University are supporting. They've got the Columbia University president, the former network news reporter, Claire Shipman. She's out there saying, well, we don't like the massacre all the Jews part, but gosh, it's free speech. It's not like she's praying as a 75-year-old grandmother outside of an abortion clinic where the Democrats would put you in prison for years, which the Democrats did to a 75-year-old grandmother praying outside of an abortion clinic in Washington, D.C. But they discovered free speech and their support for free speech as soon as the genocidal anti-Semitism of the Democrat Party came to the surface. They're supporting Hamas, a genocidal death cult that in its charter calls for the extermination of the state of Israel and ipso facto the Jewish people. And now the Democrat Party joined in because of DEI and various other left-wing doctrine that teaches them that anybody, Palestinian, will do whose skin isn't as white as King Charles III. The person with the darker skin is a victim. The person with the lighter skin is the victimizer. Never mind electricity and instantaneous global communications and air travel and medical care. Never mind any of that. Never mind civilization and art and technology. Never mind that. It's the person with the lighter skin that is the villain. But let me go to the Columbia University. Here's the extremists at Mediaite, leftist, communist. Columbia University calls in NYPD to clear out protesters from library after campus security officers injured. What is this? campus security injured by a violent mob? Why, yes. I had to call in the NYPD for Democrats following along. That's the New York Police Department. New York Police Department. I know, everything's a code. It can be difficult. Photos and videos posted on social media Wednesday showed pro-Palestinian protesters enter a Columbia University library. Now, when they say pro-Palestinian protesters, what they mean is modern-day Nazis, genocidal Jew haters. They want to wipe Israel off the map. They chant from the river to the sea, which is, of course, the mantra, the slogan of Hamas, and the whole thing. And so the protesters entered Butler Library, located on the southwestern edge of the university's campus in Upper Manhattan, on Wednesday afternoon. Many appeared to be wearing masks or scarves covering their faces. When you say appeared to be, what you mean is they were obviously wearing masks, and they don't mention that they're Hamas scarves, that they're the white and black Palestinian headdresses and so on. This week, Columbia University began its final exam period. Well, this should be good for the Jewish students to have the genocidal Jew-hating mob of Democrats. And again, it is illegal to conceal your identity, conceal your face while you're committing other crimes, But there's no accountability because it's left on left, and the left gets to decide what the penalties are. Again, it's not like they're 75-year-old grandmothers praying outside of an abortion clinic who really need to be punished. They're just genocidal Jew-hating Nazis who support Hamas and the extermination of the state of Israel, so they're Democrats in good standing. So Columbia began their final exams, which will run through mid-May. So the library was full of students studying, but not for very long, especially if they're Jewish. Don't wear a yarmulke, don't have a Star of David, because the terrorists, miscreants, the genocidal racists, they've taken over. And the Democrat Party says, bravo, bravo. And they give them tickets to something. Many photos and videos posted on social media, a variety of sources, including students who had been studying in the library, the protesters themselves, Jewish student groups, student reporters, and local New York City journalists. That's a lot of people shooting video, since everybody has a TV studio in their pocket because of the patriarchy. With your iPhone, got a TV studio, you can text your videos to people. You're welcome. But amazing stuff. Several shots showed protesters vandalizing with graffiti in red and green ink. They got the big magic markers to write big things on it. Columbia will burn for the martyrs. That's some of the graffiti. Will burn, and it's the number 4. They couldn't be bothered to write out FOR, so they used the number 4. Columbia will burn for the martyrs. I honestly should come in and start hitting them with 12-gauge shotguns with the rubber slugs. The rubber slugs. Just hit them in the midsection. Then cuff them and drag them away on their bellies and send them to Gitmo. I think Gitmo. And Free Palestine. They're writing free, and they're vandalizing tens of thousands of dollars in damage by the so-called protesters, the vile mob of genocidal anti-Semites. The protesters said they were renaming the library. Lefties always love to do that. They steal stuff and take stuff over. Like there's a park in Washington, D.C. on 16th Street, up from the White House by about a mile. And it's called Meridian Hill Park. And it's beautiful. It has cascading fountains. I think it was built in the 1930s. Beautiful park. I used to live in a building right across the street from it, the Envoy. And it's called Meridian Hill Park, and it belongs to the federal government. But in D.C., the liberal Democrats who run the city into the ground, the murder rate, the carjackings, the drug deaths, the crime, they love all of that. And they bring more of it. But they renamed Meridian Hill Park Malcolm X Park. And everything the District of Columbia does, they call it Malcolm X Park, but it's actually owned by the federal government, and it's called Meridian Hill Park, but they just rename it, right? So these radicals, they took over the library. Now they're going to rename the library. And they posted a list of demands. I always point out how they have demands. They never have requests, or they're never polite. It's always a violent, threatening list of demands. That's why you should start hitting them with tear gas real early, including the removal of all police list of demands. Removal of all police and immigration and customs enforcement officers from campus. Right. They need to have none of that. No police and no immigration enforcement because they're communist pigs. And to end Colombia's, quote, occupation, end quote, of Harlem. Yeah, because you don't want a university in, anywhere near Harlem. And they own real estate there because these universities are all real estate investment firms worth tens of billions of dollars. Make no mistake. And you're paying them to become more prosperous real estate investment firms. And they demand, I apologize, no cops, no ICE, leave where they are, near Harlem. And then amnesty for all protesters. I'd say rubber fire hoses for all protesters, truncheons perhaps, good stuff. So let's go to some of the audio here. We got soundbite number 1 at Columbia University. They've taken over in the library named for a significant person who accomplished things in their lives, and they want to destroy everything. This is what the Democrat Party is growing in the United States. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Oh, that's backward. Hey, somebody brought a drum. Yeah, from the river to the sea, from the sea to the river. I think your mother is a sliver. They had to go backward on that, and it's not as easy to rhyme when you're going backward. They're not very bright people. And they're Columbia will burn for the martyrs. They're writing, scrawling on things. And again, they have their Muslim headdresses on that they used to very deliberately cover their faces. Some of them even wear gloves so you can't see skin color. They're all white, and they're all privileged, and they're all suburbanites. And then, the police came in, but we'll get to that in just a moment. So they took over I think a lot of them call it the library, and they took over and they got from the river to the sea. That is a call to wipe Israel off the map. And they say Palestine will be free. The Jews have only been there for 4,000 years, but pay no attention to that. There is no ethnic group called Palestinian. They're just Arabs that live in the region. And without the Israelis, they'd have no electricity. They'd have no clean water. They'd have no medicine. They'd have no communications, of course. They'd have nothing. They'd be living like their ancestors did thousands of years ago in filth and squalor. But they should be very happy that they live in Israel, and they were given a two-state solution, and they had an election that the Israelis let them have. And then, but I've got to tell you, I've got a bunch more of the Democrat rabble at Columbia University. They took over the library. They're chanting their genocidal anti-Semitism, of which they're very proud. And then the police came, first campus security, and they violently attacked them, and there were injuries, and the NYPD came in, and sadly they had to kill every last protester. Very sad. They're going to bring them to that cemetery in Baghdad, though, drum up a little business for them. All right, they didn't really kill all the protesters. But I have the rest of what happened there coming up. Hey, are you a yo-yo dieter? You lose weight, but then you gain it all back again, plus a couple of extra pounds. Well, breaking free of your yo-yo diet pattern is one of the primary reasons that doctors created Lean. Lean from Brick House Nutrition is a supplement. It's not an injection, no shots to give yourself. You don't need a prescription from a doctor. Lean targets weight loss in 3 very important and powerful ways. It helps you to maintain healthy blood sugar levels, and that's good. It helps you to control appetite and cravings. And it helps you burn fat by converting fat into energy. Oh, boy, clever stuff. Listen, if you're tired of losing weight, then gaining it all back again, Lean was created just for you. And I can help get you started with 20% off when you enter the code PLANT20, PLANTE 20, at takelean.com. That's the code PLANT20 at takelean.com. The statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease and is not a substitute or alternative for care from a healthcare provider. Bam, 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 bam. All right, I've got a bunch more of the vile, racist, genocidal rabble from Columbia University. They call themselves liberals, and they've been weaned by the left. More on that gang of miscreants coming up. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Yes. I'm going to get back to Columbia University with the genocidal rabble being raised by the Democrat Party in the United States. Vile, violent, criminal. And how many illegal aliens in the... How many on a student visa? I'd catapult them into the Atlantic Ocean. If you're here on a student visa, you're doing this. Hey, jihad can be a two-way street. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Will calling from Washington, D.C. Will, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Oh, hi, Chris.
Hey.
Well, I'm going up to the Columbia graduation next week in New York. My niece is graduating up there, duly brainwashed. But anyway, I was telling her I was going to wear a Kevlar yarmulke to the graduation in solidarity with the Israeli people. I was joking, but I think maybe I'll do it now with all the rock up there.
And you say that your niece has been duly brainwashed. Have they turned into a crazy person?
No, she's just sort of a typical New York liberal, sympathetic to all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's pitiful.
It's the path of least resistance because the mob, it's rule of the mob. The Democrat Party loves the threat of violence, and you got to have a lot of actual violence to make the threat of violence credible. And the anti-Semitism is really something, isn't it, Will?
Yeah, well, they're not old enough to even really know much about the past. I don't think they didn't live in New York when the place was a dump in the 70s, and they, I don't know, they just, who knows? They're brainwashed. Anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're brain. Well, listen, I'd love to hear about your experience at the graduation after it's all wrapped up. That's fun stuff. And in the meantime, have her watch Taxi Driver and Escape from New York and Death Wish. Just a good starter pack. Yes. The Ivy League. Why it's known as the Poison Ivy League. The Columbia University students, mostly there, more than 100 of them, masked as disguised as Hamas terrorists who are there to kidnap, rape, torture, and murder Jews. And they took over the library at the Columbia University in Manhattan, where Barack Obama went to school. More than 100 masked anti-Israel. They call them demonstrators. They're genocidal rioters and criminals, but Democrats in good standing with the Democrat Party, of course. Now, let me go on with this because they're chanting from the river to the sea, which, of course, means that they're calling for the extermination of the state of Israel. And when Hamas and Iran and the others chant this chant that Democrats are now chanting in the United States, if you're Jewish and you're a Democrat, I'm sorry, but every day's an IQ test. And you are not competing. Let's go to the next one, from the river to the sea, wipe Israel off the map. And then he did it backward, from the sea to the river. Palestine will live forever. Yeah, well, that's flip a coin on that one. So here is the gang of loons in the library, and they're calling the library is named for a man who had long ago been the president of Columbia University. And they're writing and they're vandalizing the interior of the library during finals, by the way, at Columbia, where some students actually are there to get an education so they can build a life for themselves instead of just spending their life chanting about killing Jews, which is what the Democrat Party teaches at Ivy League institutions. But here's the gang after from the river to the sea. Now they want, intifada is violent war. It's war, uprising against the Jewish people and Israel. And again, it goes hand in glove with from the river to the sea. Palestine means kill all the Jews and wipe Israel off the face of the map. And at Columbia University, this is what you get. Yes, long live Intifada. Intifada revolution. Long live revolution. This is communism in the United States of America, spreading this kind of genocidal lunacy, the violence, the arrogance, the takeover, the mob, because that's what the Democrat Party does. They're quite remarkable. And then going to the next, ABC fake news in New York. 2 officers hurt in, quote, crowd surge, end quote. They're trying to minimize the violence of the mob attacking the campus security and injuring 2 of them. So they just call it, it's just a crowd surge. Yeah, sure, like a Who concert. It's no big deal. 2 officers hurt in crowd surge, ABC fake news reports on behalf of Hamas and Iran. During Columbia University library protest. It's just a library protest. The protest, they call it, broke out in the main reading room of the Butler Library. And they say Butler was a Nazi. And they're scrawling that on the inside of the library, and they're vandalizing, and there will be tens of thousands of dollars in damages. But 2 security officers were hurt in a crowd surge after a large protest broke out at a library on the campus of Columbia University in New York on Wednesday, officials said. The Columbia public safety officers sustained injuries when individuals, quote, attempted to force their way into the building, end quote. They had mostly already taken over the building. Columbia's acting president, Claire Shipman, a former ABC News reporter and CNN reporter, and a woman that I've known for many years, and a perfectly nice person, she said in a statement, these actions are outrageous. Well, then expel them all from school, arrest them, tear gas the place, beat them with rubber truncheons, and drag them out in handcuffs. If you're a student there, then you're expelled. And if you're a student there on a student visa from some beephole country in the Middle East, then you're deported because you're not invited to use your student visa to come here for the jihad. So nightstick across the head, handcuffs, dragged away, leg restraints like the Biden FBI did to Peter Navarro, one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet. Dragged him away with leg restraints from Washington's Ronald Reagan National Airport. Peter Navarro was put in leg restraints and handcuffs and dragged away, even though he'd been on the phone with the FBI just a couple hours earlier. Like, look, if you guys need me, I can walk down to FBI headquarters and join you this afternoon. Said, no, we're going to hack your computers, find out where you're going to be, and then we're going to rough you up in public at the airport and cuff you and put you in leg restraints and take you away because we don't believe that you enjoy executive privilege as an employee of the White House and the President of the United States because they're basically fascists. WABC, the local station in New York, reported dozens of protesters were being led out in flex cuffs. I hope they're real tight. And New York City Deputy Mayor Kaz Doherty told the station WABC, 60 to 70 people were taken into custody As of late Wednesday, authorities had not provided the exact number of people detained. Were they beaten with nightsticks? Because they certainly should be. So campus security, the campus security, they call them the public safety people on campus, they're trying to walk into the library after the criminals, the jihadis, have taken over. What's with all these suburban candy-ass girls going to Ivy League institutions that have been turned into mental cases? They don't know what their gender is. They're on the side of Hamas. They're still hostages. At least they're dead bodies being held by these psychopaths. And the Democrat Party has made them popular in the United States because, and then inside the library, the public safety officers, there's one guy, one of the campus public safety officers, is a gigantic man, a black guy with, I think, a white, like, polo shirt on. And when he pushes somebody, they move. Boy, they're not standing still for long. He looks great, and he's just calm, cool, and collected, but doing the right thing. Inside the library, the lunatics persist. Kill the Jews! Kill the Jews! We love Hamas! Must you curse about everything? Honestly, so much cursing. What is the matter with you people? See, they've been raised by Democrats, and again, Columbia will burn for the martyrs. That's one of their slogans. Columbia University calls NYPD, which is kind of fun, and then the NYPD showed up because they're the police department. The police are saying, start shooting them. Shoot a couple of them. They're worse than Ashley Babbitt. You should go ahead and shoot like 20 of them, I think. Ashley Babbitt didn't do anything as bad as that. She wasn't a genocidal lunatic. She was a 12-year veteran of the United States Air Force. But what the NYPD is saying here is you have to show your ID to leave the building. And they're saying, no, we're not. And their faces are covered up, and their hands are covered up. And they think they're jihadis, and they need a nightstick across the head, knock to the ground, take their IDs. And if it's not, what they're required to have smart ID now. No, smart ID? Real ID? Yeah, real ID. Sorry, real ID. Yeah. They're going to have to be deported. Maybe El Salvador, someplace like that. So they're telling them, all right, because they want to get a list of the names of the people doing this since they've all covered their faces, knowing that there are video cameras everywhere. So we're going to disguise ourselves like jihadis, and we're going to kill the Jews. And amazing stuff. And the founder of one of the old president's library, and the library named after him, he's a Nazi. Everybody's a Nazi except you guys who are calling for the extermination of the Jews. No sense of irony, one of my sayings. They use the words, but they don't know what they mean. Another one of my sayings. And then the cops are telling him, show me your ID. You can't leave the building until you show us an ID. And if you don't, then we're going to shoot you in the leg, as Joe Biden recommended.
One time, please produce your identification card, and you will be allowed to leave without issue. If you fail to do so, you will be arrested.
Whoever that screaming woman is, she should get a tear gas canister fired at like her midsection and then dragged away.
May I suggest using a nightstick, officer? Get out of here!
I think definitely a nightstick is in order here. And then there's another mob outside that were attacking the police, trying to get, and they're never arrested for assaulting a police officer. They're never there's never a hate crime when they're calling for the genocide of the Jews. But if you're a 75-year-old grandmother praying outside of an abortion clinic in Washington where Democrats are exterminating 40% of the black population, that's not genocide, right? It's only 40%. Hitler killed about 60% of the Jews in Europe. The Democrats kill 40% of the black population in the womb in America every year, year after year. But never mind that. The students outside there, because the police are now saying, we're taking your IDs, photographing your IDs, because you're going on the record here with your little disguises. Somebody hit that woman. Fire hoses. We will not let them out. Yelling is a felony. Democrats would suddenly decide that yelling is a felony. This is, make no mistake, this is the Democratic Party. 100% the Democratic Party. They're not Democratic at all. And then they have my erstwhile CNN colleague and former ABC News reporter Claire Shipman, who is now the acting president of the Columbia University in New York.
There's a line between legitimate protest and actions that endanger others and disrupt the fundamental work of the university. Today that line was crossed, and I have confidence the disciplinary proceedings will reflect the severity of the actions.
I don't have confidence that the disciplinary actions, I don't have any confidence at all. Amazing stuff. Yes, yes, sir. You're a Democrat Party. And the disciplinary actions will not match. First of all, they should be expelled. It's not just protest. It's they're the 1930s, the 1940s. They're calling for the extermination of the Jewish people and the state of Israel. They're concealing their identities. They're at an Ivy League institution where, in theory, if they graduate with a diploma, which I would deny them immediately, and that would bring this all to a screeching halt in a day. And I would notify their parents that they've raised Jew-hating, genocidal, Hamas-loving, mentally ill people who shouldn't be employed anywhere and certainly aren't going to get their degrees from the Columbia University in New York. That's how I would begin. And again, if you're in the country on a student visa, and now the FBI is announcing that, and Department of Homeland Security, they're going to be looking at the presumably the photographs of the IDs that they were required to show to be let out of the library. If you're there on a student visa, you'd be on an airplane back to your beep-hole country this afternoon. Grab your duffel bag because you're going home. Let's go to the telephones, Mike. Let's go to Linda, calling from the beautiful state of Washington. Linda, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi. I've got some. You can add the University of Washington to your riots and things going on. Most recently, it was dealing with DEI, which I realize is kind of more or less gotten shelved and everything, but you had women there that were speaking out for girls in sports and things, and you had transgenders telling them die on as they left the college and things, harassing them that they'd get killed in car accidents.
Right.
But most of all, what I want to bring up and give a loud shout-out of support is for Jim Walsh. He's the state chairman for the Washington State Republican Party, and he's doing an awesome job. He's also a state representative. But anyway, what most recently, we have Bob Ferguson, who is now the governor for the state. He was attorney general, and he is one of the state attorney generals that's been most after Trump. And that still continues, and we continue to lose ground here, but there's those of us that will stay and fight.
Stay and fight.
And anyway,
yes.
Most recently, what is passed now within parental rights being taken away from us more and more within our schools. It is now the state law that a child at 13 years old in the school has a right to have the parents not told about what is going on with them, and it's a decision of the child.
Changing their genders is what they're genital mutilation and the mental illness that is transgenderism. And look, we were talking about it day before yesterday, I think it was, Linda, the University of Washington with the pro-Palestinian Kill the Jews protest. University of Washington suspends 21 students involved in the pro-Palestinian protests as federal grants to the school are being examined. And I've got to say, The schools, the universities, because they create this environment, they're at least partly responsible for creating this environment. The universities should pay a price for this. I'm not Jewish. I am a Zionist, and I'm pro-civilization. And what the left is infecting our culture with should be stopped. We can't firebomb it with Molotov cocktails, as the Democrats are so fond of doing with everything that they disdain, and they disdain almost everything. Like the Jewish governor's house, the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania, Tesla dealerships or Tesla repair shops or Tesla vehicles, or the list goes on. University of Washington faces federal review after pro-Palestinian protests, and that's making international news in the United Kingdom. They suspended 21 students involved in the pro-Palestinian genocidal anti-Semite protests, and amazing stuff. 42 minutes ago, Linda, anti-Semites plan rally at University of Washington, Seattle after suspensions. So the anti-Semites are now planning a new rally. You got Jason Rantz on the case there, and that's a good thing. He's on the side of truth, justice, and the American way. Great stuff. Thank you, Linda.
Every top dead is a victory for the resistance. Every IOF soldier killed is a victory against colonialism.
We don't have time for a big phone call, but we got about a minute. We should go to a real person, a normal person. Let's go to D, calling from the Washington metropolitan area. Don't want to be too specific. D, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris.
Hi, D.
My question is this, or an observation. I don't understand how anybody, knowing that what is within a setting would be some predatory, not all, but they're predatory adults. I call these indoctrination statements or stations. These are no longer academic settings. Why would somebody, allow their child to enter in one of these really liberal counties? You know what's going on inside there. How in the world can you, go on to work in the morning knowing that you've just deposited your child on a school bus or, at the entrance to a venue where this kind of thing is going on?
Well, that is one of the questions for our ages, D, no doubt about it. High schools and Columbia University.